President Trump earlier today, in fact, just barely over an hour ago, he signed a new executive order concerning the U.S. Department of Education. This was something that he had pledged to do, that is to dismantle the department. He made this pledge while he was on the campaign trail last year. And joining me now to dive deeper into this executive order is Meg Kilgannon. She's a senior fellow for education studies here at the Family Research Council and previously served at the Department of Education during the first Trump administration. Meg, thanks for joining me today. Great to have you.
It's great to be here.
All right, so 30,000-foot view. What's your thoughts about this executive order that President Trump signed today?
I think it's a really wonderful development. I think that it's something that we really need to have happen for the president to sign this executive order. It will encourage members of Congress, like Congressman Stubbe said before me, it will encourage them to perhaps even in this reconciliation process that's coming up, finally pass the legislation that we need to completely eliminate the Department of Education, while at the same time maintaining the protections for students that the federal government can provide. So I think it's a really, really great day.
Okay, so there's a lot of parents, probably grandparents, listening, watching us right now, and they are asking, what is the benefit of doing away with the Department of Education, and how is this going to serve our children in schools better?
Well, you know, in a way, the Department of Education takes the little amount of money that comes from the federal government, and they take a slice right off the top of whatever small amounts of money are going to the states. So at least this way, the states would get money directly, and they would get more money. So I understand people are concerned when something is being taken away. That's of course a natural reaction. But I think that when we reflect on what really has been the value add of this department and what is the state of American education right now, are students achieving? Do parents feel included in the process at their schools? And I think that we have to agree that the answer, unfortunately, is that students are not being well educated right now, and that the Department of Education isn't doing anything to correct that problem, and that it is actually making that problem worse. So let's eliminate that, and then we'll get down to business. Is the problem in your state? Is the problem in your school? I think that this is what we need to do to really figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that's a great point, Meg. I would love to see, and I'm sure probably somebody out there has it. You may even know is informed as you are on all this. But I'd be curious to know the test scores before the Department of Education came into existence versus test scores across the country since we had a federal Department of Education. That'd be good information, wouldn't it?
It would be. And some of these kind of test scores didn't exist and weren't required, right? It was the department that created this, that drove the need for that kind of testing. But you know, before the Department of Education was started in 1979, kids were in school, and I will say this, that the family is in crisis, and as long as the family is in crisis, children are going to suffer, right? So at the end, if you're worried about this department closing, look to your own family and your own community around you immediately, and make sure that everything in your life is going the way it should go. That's really, in the end, the only thing you can control anyway, right? And so that's, be engaged in your local school. President Trump made a point of saying at this event today that he loves our teachers and he wants to take care of our teachers. And I know that parents feel the same way. Americans spend generously on education. We want teachers to be well paid. We want schools to be well funded. We want our children to be in good environments with happy teachers, right? And so this is a way of trying to address some of the problems that we know are happening in education, and we're going to do it at the local, state and local level. And I think that I think President Trump is right. I think that the governors and state education agencies are really excited to do this, to have this money directly and to be able to spend it the way they feel like it needs to be done effectively in their state. There was a statistic cited by that in Iowa, for example, about $50 billion of expenses occur because of federal Department of Education mandates. So that's $50 billion that's not going to the children of Iowa that the state taxpayers are paying. So
wow.
what is the offset here? You know, something's got to give, and our federal budget is in trouble anyway. So I think this is a really good idea. We should definitely give this a try.
Will this executive order in any way affect students with, say, disabilities and Title I funding for low-income schools?
The promise is being made that those programs will remain intact and will be continued. And those kinds of funds can come from other places within the federal government. Before we had a Department of Education, we had an Office of Education at Health, Education, and Welfare, that old department. And so we may be returning to a situation like that, where there are some functions of education with an education title that are a part of another agency, perhaps. And definitely the special needs funding could come out of HHS, and that might be a really much better use of that money coming out of that department.
So to clarify, as we wrap up this segment, Meg, the portions of the department will still be there for grants and that type of thing, but primarily the money would shift from the federal Department of Education and go directly to the states and enable education to be handled on the state and local level. Is that what is happening here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it will mean even more money going to states, not less money, because we won't have that cut off the top from here in Washington.
And ultimately, that's the best place for education. The closer the funds get to the actual student, the more effective and impactful it is. Thank you, Meg Kilgannon, Senior Fellow for Education Studies here at the Family Research Council. I always appreciate your fantastic insights. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jody.